Okay, hey Bonnie, it's Rogelio Garza from your class, and I was gonna do it over the website, but right now it's having a maintenance break, so like I'll send you like the message in the morning. I don't want to text you. You said not to text you after like 9 or something like that, so I'm just gonna record it and upload it to YouTube. All right. So for the first question here, it was, how's my understanding of the writing process developed over the course? And one of the first ones I chose was for my assignment 3 was, I now understand that using personal experiences in your writing helps get your point across and maybe relate to others. So here for my final essay, I highlighted some of the stuff in yellow. My personal experiences is, I've struggled when it comes to reading and writing simply for the fact that I've never found it interesting. This discouraged me from wanting to learn or work on it until I found a genre of books that caught my interest like a fish on a hook. So here in the beginning, I'm basically talking about like my feelings, how I feel about reading, how I don't like it, and like until until I found that certain thing that I really enjoyed. Once I found what I enjoyed, it really got me my attention. I also included another personal experience in my conclusion down here, right here from here on. I also wrote to also add on to that, I'd like to mention how much of a reader I've grown from finding books that catch my interest while also gaining more knowledge from teachers that decide to think what the students may enjoy. So basically, I'm kind of like giving the teachers an idea of my personal interests. Like, hey, maybe one student's like work looking like this. Maybe they can all change like the way I have. Like maybe if we include stuff that they're interested in, maybe they all begin to start reading books every now and then without complaining. So that was for my first point. For my second point, um, okay, the title has the title has three things to give to the reader. So whenever I was asking for feedback for you for the title, you were telling me like the title is one of the most important things out of like the whole story. Like it's super easy, but at the same time, it means so much to like the readers. Like there's like before that, I thought like the title like it's whatever. Like I know it's important, but like it's whatever I want it to be. But in reality, it's not what I want it to be. You explained it like there's three things that has to meet for like the reader. It has to catch their emotions. It has to catch their interest in some way. Um, you basically were explaining it like this title is basically meant for like for the writer. Like this it has to be important for them. They have to like the title. The title's like the first thing they're gonna see. So if they out of the water, if it's something bad, they may already have like a bad idea of your essay. And third, the conclusion doesn't have to be summaries of the essay. So down here in my conclusion, I basically highlighted my whole conclusion, since it's basically not all a conclusion, but I basically talked about my final ideas and what I believed in. Like I'm basically like summarizing up what I thought what I was talking about throughout my whole essay. I summarized like what I thought, but like I'm giving them my final viewpoint of what I think needs to be changed. So right here in the beginning, I talked about, finally, I believe as teachers that you should consider what is best for your students and go the extra step and start changing. So I'm basically already giving like, boom, like, hey, this is what y'all need to be doing. Like, if you're not doing this, this is also gonna happen. That's where I also include the personal experiences. Maybe like change their mind, be like, okay, maybe if it happened to this student, maybe it can happen to the rest of our students. Then also for like my very last sentence down here, I'm basically talking about another option that maybe they could take. Another option that could be used is to make learning for them as entertaining and fun as possible, so they don't feel like it's a drag to sit and learn. Once grade school teachers start doing this as their students at a young age, they'll have a mindset that they want to learn in class, and it's actually fun to read about subjects that they are interesting. So I'm basically giving the teachers what I believe in, like what I think is the right thing that should be done throughout this whole thing. Like I'm giving them my opinion right now and what I think they should be doing. Not like a conclusion, not what I basically talked about. I'm telling them what I want them to be doing. So that completes the first section. And for the second one, understanding research for the theory map. The first one was, when doing research over a topic, it's not best to have just the books and articles as sources, but also have interviews. So down here, I also highlighted how I interviewed three people. I interviewed Hernan, Andrea, and one of my friends, Zachary. So before I thought that maybe like just having books and all that stuff was maybe the right way. Like we didn't need interviews and all that. Like I thought interviews were probably like kind of like not important. But then like after I got the interviews, I later found out that like, hey, some of these interviews actually like helped me way better. Like they sounded way better than some of the articles I was doing. So I was like, maybe like interviews are the maybe in some cases interviews are like the better way to go. Like especially for my friend Zachary, since he has a lot of personal experiences with the subject I was talking about. His was real easy to get along with in the story. It was really easy to like to defend his own topic and all of that. Okay. For my second one, oh, don't use unreliable sources like .com and .org. So beforehand, I didn't even know that like until I got into your class that .com and .orgs were like, if there you find articles over that stuff, maybe like most of the time they're just trying to sell it to you. So from what I learned from you is if we go to the UTRGV library and search up whatever we're looking for, so we could be searching up writing, ooh, writing, and let's go with interest. There's gonna be a whole bunch of books that pop up, and from this I've learned that okay, with all these books, like it's better than having to go on Google and like not getting trustworthy sources and all that. So yeah, we have access to the UTRGV library that gives us basically all the books that we need. I mean, it has it all for free to us. Okay. And for my third point, I had when finding a suitable article or book, make sure to get some information on the author and see what gives them the right to talk. So this is when we go that how like people, we need to make sure like they have the right to talk, like that anyone can talk over a subject, but what gives them like what makes them special? What gives them like a special way to talk? Like why can they talk about a subject that others can't? So especially for all of my interviews, the biggest point was they all had personal experiences when dealing with the issues. Each of them had like an idea, or they went through something where they're like, "Hey, I don't understand. Like I don't like just because I don't like this, it's not gonna be fun for me, or like I'm not gonna be enjoying this." So okay, for that was for like my interviews. They all had personal experiences, but as for my authors, each of them had something different that made them special, that made them stick out. For Patricia, she had experience with other writing and reading strategies and learning strategies. So she was basically she was focused in the English like major and all that. She was like she had teaching degrees and all this. Like she could back herself up with like her or as being a writing teacher because she obviously teaches it every day. And for Stoffin, he had always read it many times. Like so he has different articles about writing. So he's not just a one hit wonder that talks about this once. He actually sees there's problems with this and all that. So he keeps on talking about them over and over again. For Asher, she's a professor at the University of Duke, and she has interest in the development of childhoods. And for her article, it was basically talking about how like children need to like we need to start at children whenever they're young, so that way we can like improve their reading skills. So with the fact that she was talking about that one them while they were young, basically goes hand in hand what she was talking about. Like this is what she believes in, and this is what she thinks needs to be get done. Asher, then for, oof. And then for McKean, he was a professor. He was also a professor at the university, and he received the American Library Association Award for outstanding academic books. So it's basically he received an achievement for how good the book was, making it a reliable source that hey, if this guy's winning awards for all this kind of stuff, maybe he actually knows what he's talking about. He was also included into the Reading Hall of Fame, giving him even more backup, showing that okay, it's like this is actually like a really good article. People are giving it this much credit that it deserves. Okay. Now for my third one, writing to an audience with a purpose. For the essay, use language relevant to authors. Okay. So for my audience, it was basically towards teachers, and in almost every single paragraph in the beginning, I was talking about the teachers. Like I would say stuff like we, or actually address the teachers. As for example, right here in the beginning, if teachers don't take action and help include interest in their students, their students have with what they're learning, it could result in many negative results for everyone. So basically, right here, I'm basically talking out to teachers so that way they understand, like, hey, this is about us. Like, this is about us, that we need to start paying attention to this because it's talking about what maybe we can improve on. That was for my second paragraph, and then for my third paragraph, for my third paragraph here, it says, second, the time when we meaning like we as teachers should start implementing in these ideas as soon as possible, according to authors Stephen Asher and Michael McKean, who talk about the effects children have when not being taught in the ways that interest them. So again, here I'm talking about we, addressing that if they were reading this, we would mean teachers. So they should think like, okay, this is also pertaining to me. Maybe I should be paying attention more to what this person's saying to me. And then for my third reason, I just flat out say the teachers. Third, teachers need to understand the relationship, that prior knowledge of students and how it affects their topic interests. So by saying the words teachers or we, they know that this is for them. Like, this is supposed to be in a manner where like they understand it. This is basically like that, okay, they're talking about us, so this has to be in the ways that like we as teachers are going to be able to understand it. And for my last one is going to be right here. Furthermore, we should start changing what we do and Furthermore, we should start changing how and what we do, so we can change the minds of all the students so that's no student ever thinks like Zachary and Andrea. So I'm basically talking about the teachers throughout almost the whole thing, so they know like, okay, this whole thing is for me. How like I'm talking to them in a professional language that like where there's not a single cuss word in this, because further in class we said you have to think like who you're writing this to. If I was writing this to a bunch of students, then I'd be having like cuss words every now and then. But since I want this to be like a professional essay to teachers, there's no cuss words at all through it. I'm mentioning them throughout every paragraph so that way they know like this is everything that I would like for them to change in their learning and teaching. Fourth, for the meme, make sure to use relevant images. Here for my meme, I used like all images that would partake that situations where teachers would have. So for my first one, my picture would have to deal with being forced to write about, I'm just talking about the students being forced to write about uninteresting topics. I'm pretty sure teachers have had it to where it's complicated, where students are complaining that they don't want to write, or they just won't flat out write, and the teacher can't do nothing about it. Having to read books that you don't like, students would most likely during whatever group readings and all that fall asleep rather than read, and the teachers can't do anything about it. Like, it's not their fault that they have to read about the book, but they have to deal with situations like this. And these later two pictures have to deal with how students would react to teachers. They maybe teachers do not see it every now and then, but some teachers will do realize like, okay, since I'm changing, they start to see an involvement in students. Students start becoming more interesting whenever they start to see the change, and then fully become interested in the teacher whenever they realize, oh, okay, now the teacher's doing stuff that we enjoy learning about. Like, we're all fine with this now. Okay, and for my podcast, actually written down the times right here in my notebook that I can play a couple of them for you right now. And this is basically where I talk about for my podcast. This is where I talk about things that catch or relate to the audience. So for the audience, since they're obviously tuning into this for a certain reason, they want to know like, okay, what points am I bringing up throughout this? So I put down the times of all the strong questions that I asked my friends in this podcast, so like the readers can understand like, oh, I kind of like want to debate about that question. Like, I don't know if like that question's right, or maybe they want to hear out like our viewpoints. So my first question is from 8 seconds to 11 seconds.
When it's about something they're interested in. Y'all have any personal experiences with that?
So here I'm talking about the personal experiences, like the what the whole thing is based about, the personal experiences. So this is obviously going to be the one that like takes the most time to answer, where people start to begin like getting their feet wet and start becoming interested in the subjects. My second one's at 1:42. Oof. And it goes all the way up to 150.
Understand how students are only going to learn and prosper in their classes if it's stuff where they're interested or have personal experiences about. Yeah, I would
So again, I'm asking them another big question that people would like start to think about. These aren't like simple questions like yes or no questions. These are stuff that you actually have to think about and truly like go into depth of why you believe that you're right with this subject. These aren't like some simple like, oh, okay, I believe this, and it just ends the discussion, because that makes it boring, and like the reader's not gonna be engaged with what we're talking about. We have to bring up like complicated questions that people and listeners are gonna think like, that's actually a really good point. Like, I think this, but they think that. They start to see the other viewpoints that are going down and around with other people are thinking and all that. And that completes my third one. And for my fourth one, the understanding feedback. So for my essay, I think I could pull it up right here. So with my understanding of feedback, for the essay, when requesting feedback, it is important to be as specific as possible so you solve your problem. So I flat out made sure that whenever I was asking you for feedback, I flat out told you, like, in my conclusion, I think that I continue my personal experience. I should continue my personal experience from the intro and talk about how I like to read, and now that I've changed the way I look at reading. And I basically told you, like, flat out, like, I think I should do this. I don't know if it'd be like a smart idea to be doing this. And I asked you, like, would it be a good idea? And you flat out told me, like, yes, like, this is what you should be doing. Like, personal experiences are good for that. So if you get straight to the question, if you get straight to the point that you want, the question, and whatever the answer should be direct, and that should help you, like, think right away. Okay, boom, I'm gonna do this then. Like, this is okay. So now I'm gonna be able to do this. So let me go ahead and hide this. Shoot, hold up, I'm trying to mark it as resolved. Oh. Okay, we'll leave that for right now. Okay, so that completes the first essay. We're like, yeah, about how feedback and requesting it straight from you, and it helped me get the idea of my conclusion. For the breakdown of the advice, whenever I was helping Perla with hers, I made sure to get it in as specific as possible, because she had like a really good question. I wasn't able to pull it up because it wasn't letting me open it, but I put down the exact feedback I gave her. So I talked about she was struggling with how she needs to summarize it and what pictures to use. So I flat out told her, like, the things that I would like. I told her basically what my ideas would be. So from, like, I flat out told her, like, that she was trying to sound too smart throughout her words and all that. Like, under her picture, she was trying, like, she had long paragraphs. I was like, you're trying to overdo this. Like, you have to think it's a simple meme. Like, you're supposed to have fun with it. It's supposed to be short and simple and sweet. Like, nothing too long for read. And she was also struggling with pictures. So I told her, like, oh, these would be, like, really good ideas for pictures that I would thought, like, hey, if I had this subject, I'd be using these pictures. So I flat out told her, like, I gave her 3 pictures to use. One of them was to take a pic with someone, like, based off of the situations. I gave her pictures that I could with the best of my abilities and the time we were given. And then finally, she asked for how she could summarize, like, how she could also summarize her text. So I was able to, in the time, think of one of them, how she could summarize her final one, which had to deal with professors' names, which had to deal with what other researchers think. And I was able to tell her, like, exactly this is what I would put. So maybe I could start, like, giving her ideas, and she would start thinking about, okay, if he did this, maybe I can change up his wording a little bit and put this in my own words, so it looks like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm not just following him, but in the end of the day, just getting her head thinking of more ideas of what to do. Okay. And then for my podcast, I'll pull up the picture right here. Giving examples of what you want to elaborate on. So for my podcast, I was kind of struggling a little bit. I didn't know, like, okay, like, maybe, so right here, I was talking about, should I be inserting questions about the authors? Like, I didn't know, like, I was thinking, like, okay, if I don't answer, like, should I be answering questions? Is that the right thing to do? Is it the wrong thing to do? So I had to get I tried to be a little bit more specific, like, okay, certain questions about the author, should they be going in right here? Should they be going in somewhere else? That's why I needed help for over here, but also for over here. I also said, should I also include any interviews I have with the students? I'm also asking for more feedback from, like, the people, like, should I be getting feedback from my colleagues? Should I be putting that inside my podcast? Would that be a good idea? That to where, like, okay, this is like really good information. Maybe I should be using it. So, like, basically, I'm giving them like, I'm trying to give them, like, what should I be doing this, and should I be putting it in here? I was trying to give them as many examples as possible, as like, should I be including the authors after, like, right after we talk about it, or should I be including them beforehand? And for my final understanding of writing and developing, I got, when using interviews in your essay, you shouldn't be using them as support, but as others' perspectives. This goes from when you told me that I got the 4 out of the 5 in the essay, and I talked about it. And right here, this is where I basically proved the point that the second student, Andrea Castillo, also thought things similar to Zachary, like, why would you read something like that? Showing us that these both students experience not wanting to read books. So that goes on to show that I was basically using them to back each other up. That since they have, like, similar views, like, they're backing each other up. I was basically trying to have them say, like, okay, since they think similar things, I was trying to back up the readers with the students, which is bad. You don't want to do that. You want to give the students, the interviewers, basically their own individual. You should be treating them as individual sources, like, individual ideas, more thoughts, more like what else to say, more like more information that people could be relating to. Like, interviewers shouldn't be used as, like, okay, so, like, this, they use them to back up. They shouldn't be used as backup to make points stronger. They should be used as points to help get more people thinking, to help put out more ideas for your topics. And then teachers can affect your attitude towards reading and writing. So that's basically what I talked about throughout my whole essay. And that also has to go along kind of with, like, with the orange one. So with what I had highlighted in orange, that, like, these basically, I brought up all the points that what teachers should be doing. And if they don't do this, I later on talk about how it's going to affect us. So right here again, we talk about, furthermore, teachers should start changing how and what they do. Right here I'm talking about, if they don't change what they do, students are going to start thinking like Zachary and Andrea, where they both felt that, why would you read something that you don't like? They start having negative feedback and negative ideas towards it. Right here, teachers need to understand the relationship and the prior knowledge of students and affect their topics. This has to talk about teachers. If they're not doing this, students are gonna start struggling even more. They're not gonna want to stay in class and learn about the subject. They're gonna be discouraged to be learning about the subject. They're, after, like, one bad experience, they're gonna be like, hey, I don't like the subject because of that one time, so I'm not gonna pay attention anymore. And this will go right here for the second time. We should start implementing these ideas in as soon as possible. So basically, if we start having teachers thinking the way we want them to start thinking, like teaching with interest and all that, then our school systems are gonna start be looking a lot better. So this all has to deal with the teachers, that if the teachers don't pull up on their part, then the students are gonna pay for it. Kind of going with this, that teachers can affect your attitude towards reading and writing. So if the teachers are teaching you boring things, and stuff that doesn't interest you, you're not gonna want to learn. You're not gonna be encouraged to, like, oh, go the extra step and read some more books. So, in my conclusion, teachers have the big part when it comes to all this kind of stuff. That if the teachers make this class and all that boring, then you're probably gonna not have that subject fall into one of your favorites later on in your life. And that's going to be the end of my final. Thank you, Bonnie.